Oh, Clearwater, they don't like me anymore. Well, I'm just going to say this. I'm probably going to just let this play because I'm having other issues. But anyway, I'm just going to let this play. And I just want to put into context. In St. Augustine, back when Martin Luther King came to Florida, they said the same thing about Martin Luther King. He wasn't from here. He's not part of the community. And he's just agitating. So remember that as you listen to this video. So let's get into it. And I'll see you at the end.
I want to talk about propose that we further modify the council rules, in particular Rule 6G and Rule 15. And a little bit of the history on that is we've had the gentleman coming over from the east coast of Florida now for a while. And he describes himself as a YouTuber, and he's been to 2 or 3 council meetings since we came on board. The long history, the whole community knows. It's been reported in the media. He had a lot of, he had I would call it a battle with the prior council. And so I was hopeful that, with a new council and a new mayor, we would just be able to ask him to respect his time at the podium and to respect the other citizens here, the time of the other citizens' resources, and to make appropriate comments and to handle himself appropriately if he was going to participate in the meetings, particularly under the part of the meeting which is citizens to be heard on items not on the agenda. Since the last meeting, he has taken to YouTube, and although he didn't really get any sensational video, we didn't have any adversarial conversation at the meeting, he's gone on a tirade. He's encouraged his subscribers to reach out to us directly, and as the council knows, the public doesn't know, many of them have. And we've gotten some horrible, borderline threatening communications from a number of folks who are his subscribers on YouTube. One that I received, refers to my mother's intimate anatomy, and then wishes that, or prays that my children get stomach cancer so that my genes die. And I can read you a voicemail that we got left by somebody who claimed to be a Clearwater resident, that I really can't read it to because I'd have to bleep out a good 90% of it, and you wouldn't know what they said by the time I got done. We've gotten all kinds of, not just the council, city staff has been drawn into this, about their children dying. And we don't respond to any of that. We pass that on to law enforcement, appropriate law enforcement. We pass it on to our local law enforcement. The email I referred to and that I got was traced back, and we trace them all back, even the phone calls. So you may think nobody knows who you are. We find out who you are. The email I got came from Switzerland. So if it comes from outside the United States, if somebody, and I don't decide whether you're breaking the law or you're not breaking the law. We just pass everything we get on to law enforcement, and we let them take care of it. But the volume, and this was clearly inspired by his last appearance here and him inciting these people to lash out at us. And so we've also gotten other communication from a lot of Clearwater citizens who have said, why are we allowing this to happen? This person at the last meeting they were at said, complained about having to drive 4 hours over here to speak at the council meeting, and took great pride in the fact that he's a YouTuber and he's making money off subscribers and advertisers for being here at the meeting. So we got I'd say I got quite a bit of verbal, concern from Clearwater citizens is what's all this costing our taxpayers? By the time we have to deal with all this stuff that comes in from people who don't even live here, And by the time he drags out a meeting, he disrupts the meeting, and it delays the participation of Clearwater citizens, people who live here and have other items. A lot of concern here locally about letting someone, one, come from well outside of Clearwater to disrupt our meetings, costing our taxpayers money. And two, making it harder for other voices of the people who live here to be heard. So, we're doing, like I said, on the communications, reaching out to law enforcement. Everything we get, we share with law enforcement so they can address it appropriately if it crosses the line. Certainly, everyone is free, Clearwater citizens, including anyone on this dais, anyone that works for city government, to let YouTube know how we feel about it. Let the advertisers who their pop-up ads come up on his channel, let them know about how we feel about it. And I'm not going to address any of that tonight. What I am here, or this afternoon, what I am here to address is this, is he has helped us in a way because I have looked at the council rules again last night and today. Looked at all the things that I see what those rules are that allow me as chair to control the meeting. And that's the point of this whole thing. This is a business meeting for the city of Clearwater. We're not limiting anybody's constitutional rights to go out there and do whatever they want to do on the internet, out in public. We're running a business meeting, and we have a right as a council to control our business meeting and to not let folks come in and disrupt it. And the council rules, originally written in 1977, when there was no internet, there was no all this electronic communication, a gazillion ways for citizens to be heard and make their sound known. So those rules obviously have evolved since 1977. When we first put them together, I don't believe we anticipated that somebody would come in here from that far away, disrupting, controlling our meeting, costing the taxpayers money in the way they're conducting themselves. And he has put in a lot of evidence into the public record as to he's doing this for profit, for commercial purposes. That's not an appropriate use of your time in one of our meetings. And he's coming here from far away. So I would propose that at least talk to the city attorney, and for agenda items, we have to let anyone from the public who wants to be heard, they have to talk to the agenda item. But for the part of our agenda that is citizens to be heard for items not on the agenda, I would propose that we amend our rules to limit it to Pinellas County residents. Not City of Clearwater residents, but Pinellas County residents. Who, we may have folks in the county who don't technically live in Clearwater, may have an issue if they were on the agenda. That doesn't mean we can't, as a council, grant someone upon request to speak during that period of time or somewhere else on the agenda. But I think it could be the tip of the iceberg. For allowing somebody to come in and do this, if we don't change our rule now, we're really inviting people from all over the country, not just the state of Florida, to come in and do what he's been doing now. So that's my proposal, is that we amend our council rules to, our meeting rules, to restrict public comment on items not on the agenda to Pinellas County residents.
And I thank you for opening that door. I'll follow up. I have heard from a lot of our citizens as well. In fact, I've heard multiple just today alone that have a fear of showing up to our city council on a Thursday. I think that's a horrible place to be. This is supposed to be a place with an open door policy where our residents can come be a part of their government and work with us transparently under the sunshine, collaboratively. And when they're fearful of that in our community, I think it's worth looking at and finding ways to not only protect the business of our city, but to protect the residents. I would ask, I know you said Pinellas County residents, what about like business owners or people that do business in the city? How does that affect this ordinance?
You can, I mean, we can grant whoever request upon request, so if there's some issue that they want to speak about. But it would, I think it's a starting place to restrict it. I mean, I would be okay with, broadening to the extent that you had said, but.
Yeah, so I'll speak to that as well. I don't disagree with that. I do think it's a disruption. I think that he alluded to that in the last meeting before he left when, just before he was leaving, he said, threw his hands up and said, fine, I'll continue to come back and make a mockery, is the quoted word for sure of this council. I agree with Mr. Mannino's assessment. I don't want to limit it to just residents. I'd like to be able to have businesses or vendors that do stuff inside here to be able to say their piece if they have something or business that's being conducted within the city. However, you've already alluded to the fact of allowing them in with a special request if need be. So I don't know if that would be an additional form that would need to be taken by the clerk to allow them to speak or to be brought to our attention. I don't know what that looks like, but I'm not opposed to it.
City Attorney, you got anything to add on that?
Well, I guess just a couple of things. So from a constitutional standpoint, the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals has ruled that cities can implement geographic limitations on who comes in as citizens to be heard. That makes sense philosophically because local government is here to serve local residents and local businesses and other local stakeholders. We're not here to deal with national issues. We're not even here to deal with state issues, as the council is aware. So in that respect, I'm fine with it from a First Amendment standpoint. However, a couple things to keep in mind. Number one, as the mayor said, we are only talking about the citizens to be heard section. When it comes to agenda items, I do believe that under state law, there is a state statutory entitlement for all members of the public to be heard regarding agenda items specifically. And in my opinion, that would apply including to non-residents. So we are, again, only talking about the citizens to be heard section. The other point I would make just as an observation is that there is some practical side of the enforcement to this. So the question on does the clerk, manage this and how do we implement that? So most of us think about showing residency through driver's license, but then what if someone doesn't have a driver's license and they don't bring it with them or they don't drive anymore? So should we have driver's license or utility bill, something like that? If the council wants, I could certainly, bring back, some ideas that kind of flesh that out, but there is a practical side of this that it's probably gonna have to be managed through the clerk or someone else in order to actually vet that when someone comes in before they are able to be heard. And yes, there can be exceptions, and so if there's a borderline case or one that the clerk is not sure of, or if someone is looking for special permission to address the council, then there has to be some process by which that actually gets evaluated. One option could be, if you'd like to start with something simple, I could draft it to say any resident of either Pinellas County or a county that shares contiguous borders with Pinellas. That would include Pasco, where a lot of Clearwater gas customers are located. It would also include Hillsborough, which, as we know, is a lot of our regional partners, and would even include Manatee, although less commonly. That would include pretty much the entire Gulf Coast. Very rarely do we have folks come in legitimately addressing local issues who are from that far away outside of that broad geographic area. If I were to draft it as Pinellas County or any contiguous county, with the addition of the mayor being able to grant exceptions on a case-by-case basis for someone who has shown a particular issue of local concern, that might be a good place to start. But again, there's practical sides of this, and ultimately either the clerk or someone else is going to have to either look at ID, utility bill, or something else in order to actually vet that.
An option to consider would be to require those individuals speaking under that item of the agenda to register prior, and that can be done online through the agenda. So that's something that's available to us. And we can close a limit or keep it, open. That would be something for council to consider.
But remember, right now, we're only talking about citizens to be
Yeah,
heard.
I can just do it just for that item of the agenda.
I do know a number of communities that make you give
Register
advance
before.
notice of your intent to speak.
So we can do
And
that.
sign in, yeah.
That's an option, and it would still require them to identify their place of residency, so that at least that way, if there is a question, I can confirm that with the county website.
And I agree with the contiguous county thing for the resident council.
Yeah, I agree. I
would definitely support that, and I do recognize what the practical part of it could be a little bit, we're gonna have to really think it through, but I think it's worth it. I mean, this is a city council meeting, it's a business meeting, it's an agended meeting, and having this free-for-all, I don't think is acceptable. And I've also received some communications from various citizens where they feel that they don't want to come because they don't feel safe, they don't want to be part of what's been going on, and I don't think it's fair to them. So anyone who wants to discuss anything city that is specific to the city of Clearwater, I'm more than willing to hear, but that's not what this is about, is it? So I would support that as long as it's not just residents, stakeholders, business owners, and with the neighboring counties.
Okay. So direction is to the city attorney to put together a draft of a rule.
Sounds like that's what I'm hearing. So with that direction from council, I'll plan to bring that back. I think our next council meeting is July 15th, so I'll bring that back for the council at that time.
Okay. Okay, any other new business? Closing comments?
And if anybody's interested, on the 20th of this month at 6 p.m., the links will be in the description. If you want, they're all in the description. And the one thing I am going to say also, if you're going to send anything or you're going to redress them, just don't get yourself arrested. Don't make threats. Don't say anything that's going to get you in trouble. I'm not telling you what to do. I don't ever tell you what to do. And I'm saying you don't have to hit any of those links that are in the description. Don't do it. I don't want you to. But let me get out of here real quick, and I'll see you on the flip side. Soloyaker.